Alright, so I wanted to give you a look at what it's like shooting an NFL game during COVID, shooting from the stands and stuff, but first thing I like to do is actually check to make sure that the game's still happening, which it's not, so more COVID positive tests, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, me again. Yeah, game's postponed to next week. See you then. Alright, so it's finally game day, a week later than it was supposed to be. They've had a few more positive tests, but they're going forward with the game, so I'm getting ready now. So first thing I did was check to make sure the game was still happening. So the second thing I'm doing, just making sure I have all my batteries charged, my cards cleared, get my code replacements ready, all that basic stuff, make sure my gear's just working properly. So one thing I'm doing differently this year is actually editing from the stands and filing photos from the stands because there aren't any fans in the stands. So I'll bring my computer with me in my backpack, which I'll just have essentially on my back the entire time. So I'm basically walking around with my gear just the entire game. And I'm doing this for a few reasons. One, the photo workroom is just a little bit further away, so minimizes my time walking back and forth at halftime, or if something crazy happens and I wanted to file a photo right away, I can just do that in the stands, and then I can still actually photograph from the stands while I'm editing and have my computer on my lap. I can still sort of shoot from the stands to still get some images. And another reason is that I'm just trying to minimize my time indoors around other people because the pandemic's still happening. So with that said, like the inside, the photo workroom is a very large room, spaced out, tables more than 6 feet apart, open doors and windows, right? So it's fairly safe, but if the weather's nice, I'd rather just kind of be sitting in the stands and editing from there. Up, good girl. Hey, look at the camera. Alright, so the gear I'm bringing to the game today is my 400 with the monopod. And on here I have the 7D Mark II, which 7D Mark II I like to use during warm-ups a little bit more, sometimes during the game on the 400 because it has a crop factor of 1.6. So that means that essentially this lens becomes a 640, right? And because we're shooting from the stands, you need that little bit extra reach sometimes. So I'll just walk in with this, bring a 5D Mark III. Typically on that I will have a 16 to 35 wide angle. I'll bring a 70 to 200, which I will have on the 7D most of the time during the game. During pregame, I'll put it on the 1DX Mark II, which I'll also bring, which is filming right now. Extra little mask, memory cards. So I typically use 32 gig cards because I'm shooting JPEG. That's like 4,000 images. I mean, I don't really have to change during the game. All right, also bring my credential holder. Put that over here. That's mainly, I got that because when it's raining, my credentials were sort of falling apart. So I got that basically just to protect from the rain, and I just stick it in there. I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't have to worry about if they provide me with a lanyard or not. Bring my harness. So I'll hang the 7200 and the wide angle off of here during the game because when I'm shooting with the 400, if I'm shooting the quarterback, throws a long pass, I can put that off to the side, bring up my 70 to 200, and get some photos really quick of that play coming that's really close to me where the 400 would be too zoomed in for that. Then I have this little bag here full of some trinkets, so cleaning supplies, my little wrench I use. You can see another video of the accessories and I'll explain sort of why I bring each thing. Some backup batteries, my card readers, extra card readers, and the cords just to plug them into my camera. Computer charger and computer. So this is the bag I'll carry around with me all day in the stands. I mean, the cameras are all out, so really all it's housing is just my little accessories and my computer. All right, so let's go see how much this weighs. I'm really curious to see, you know, the 3 miles I'll walk today at the game, how much extra weight I'll have on my body. All right, got all my gear on. Let's see how much I weigh. Ugh, that's like an extra 40 or so pounds. So carrying around about 40 pounds. I think I walked probably 7,000 steps, about 3 miles during the game, so should be fun. Alright, just got to Gillette. Gonna head in, get my temperature checked, go through security, head to the photo workroom and get everything set up. Just walking through the empty concourse, over to the photo room. Kind of nice not having fans. You don't have to contend with anybody and you can just go around wherever you want. Alright, so when I get to the game, I head to the photo work room and just put down my stuff, make sure my gear's all put together. I double check the code replacements with the official game day rosters because there's always some changes, especially now with the COVID reserve players. Either a couple numbers will change or a couple players will change. So I just want to make sure that I have everyone on the list. And before the game, I'll connect with the other USA Today photographer. We'll just make a little game plan, decide who's on which sideline, if we want to switch sidelines, and just sort of who might stay ahead of the play, who might stay behind the play. Things like that, just to make sure that we're covering the entire field. I also get my little photo vest and little armband so that I can shoot all the way down in the first row of the stands. Then I'll go get a couple photos of warm-ups, just sort of, get my settings ready and take a couple pictures of the sort of bigger players that are warming up. And in this case, it's Cam Newton, big story because Tom Brady's gone, Cam Newton's taking over. He also just had tested positive for COVID, so he's finally back now. And same with Stephon Gilmore, he's out there warming up. And just want to make sure I get a couple images of those players because they're more newsworthy than some of the other guys warming up. So then I'll submit some of those before the game starts, have a little bit of lunch, and head out. Alright, so in Massachusetts, we don't allow fans in the stadium, which means that the photographers essentially can shoot anywhere in the stands. Most photographers can shoot right up in the first row, but some have to stay a little bit further back. You also, just like during a regular game, you can't shoot from behind the bench. So that's from the 30-yard line to the 30-yard line. Not supposed to take photos from behind there on both sides of the field. So when shooting for USA Today at an NFL game, there's typically 2 of us shooting for USA Today. So we'll just each sort of take one sideline, make sure that we're getting celebrations, reactions from that sideline, get that coach, things like that. And that way we just make sure we get a good variety. And if it's a close game in the fourth quarter, we'll communicate to make sure that, one of us is covering one end zone, one is on the other end zone, just to make sure that something crazy happens, if there's an interception return for a touchdown or a long pass for a touchdown, we have both sides covered because those are going to be the images that really tell a bigger story of the game. So when I'm shooting the NFL games, I typically like to be over here and shooting down the field. Just a personal preference, and it's not somewhere where I'm at all the time. It's just sort of, I like those images a little bit better. From this angle, you can get the quarterback through the line. It doesn't always work out because people will be in the way. Or you can get the running back running through and you get them head on. And I just kind of like those images. If you're low down here, then you can still get their face even though you're shooting from the stands. But at the beginning of the game, I'll start over here because the first images that we try to get are images of the quarterback throwing the ball or handing off, things like that, because that's just sort of the stock images that people are going to want to use right away. Or if the quarterback has a big game, something like that, those images are going to be used, just that sort of standard getting ready to throw the ball. And from this angle you can also get sacks, turnovers, if there's an interception, they're going to return back this way. You'll be able to get catches over in this side, you'll get blocked on that far side a little bit, and you can just sort of get that closer up action, cropped in from the chest up, just that intensity of the game. Where when you're shooting back here, you're gonna get more full body photos until they get closer to the end zone and they're gonna score. Shooting back here, also you can get, if there's a long pass, something like that, over the shoulder, you can be in the right position to sort of get that image. So I like to shoot from over here. It's probably where I spend more of my time, but not, nearly the entire game is spent in one of those locations. And of course, I'm gonna be running back and forth between each side depending on who has the ball and where the ball is on the field. And I'll also typically in the third quarter roam around a little bit more and maybe move up higher into the stands. Just gives you a sort of cleaner view of the field. You're not obstructed by the people in the way, because if you're really close in the stands down here, there's a lot of people on the sidelines that will get in your way. And so while it can kind of make a more dramatic image sometimes, you can get a little bit closer. If you're higher up in the stands, you get a cleaner image and you're more likely to capture the play at large. You can get behind the line of scrimmage, in front of the line of scrimmage, down the field, the higher up you are. So typically in third quarter, I'll walk around and just get a different variety of images, get some wide angles, just to try to help tell more of the story of the game. So at halftime, I'll sit in the stands, go through my photos, file the photos from the first half, and I prioritize those images that are more relevant to the game. So the scoring plays, the quarterbacks, the running backs, right? Any big catches, any interceptions, fumbles, things that will describe sort of what happened in the game. I'll also take this time to just check ESPN really quick. I always have this up. So I'll also see who the leading rushers are, the leading receivers, and I'll make sure that if I don't have good photos of them in the first half, I'll prioritize getting photos of them in the second half quickly in the third quarter, just to make sure I have those stock images of those key players from the game. That way, if it's the fourth quarter, I'm not having to worry about, oh no, I don't have a picture of the running back who's rushed for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, which I hope I have a photo of him if that was the game he was having. But I don't have to worry about getting those just regular images. I can focus on getting the key plays that happen in the fourth quarter. So for instance, in this game, the Broncos were up at halftime and they hit 4 field goals, I believe. So I was like, oh, I don't typically have a lot of photos of the kicker, but in this case, I need to make sure I get some probably closer up images, some of him celebrating, things like that. Make sure I get them in the fourth quarter, and then if I have them from the first half, I'll go through and make sure I upload those. Alright, so I do have to say that this game was probably one of the more boring, close games I've seen. The Broncos didn't score a touchdown, but they had 6 field goals, and Pat scored 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter to get it a little bit closer. So there was a little bit of drama, but there weren't any crazy big plays, things like that. A couple interceptions, a couple sacks, but there weren't a ton of like big moments where there's a big touchdown, big celebration. Those celebrations were mainly after defensive plays. So I got lucky on this interception. So the Patriots just got the ball and the quarter was about to change, so they're gonna flip fields. So instead of walking all the way down to the other end of the field and be there for 30 seconds and then walking all the way back, I just stayed where it was, and I was lucky enough to capture the interception. And then in the NFL, what they've been doing is after that play, they all kind of run down to the end zone and just pose for the camera. And I just happened to be lucky enough to be down in that position for this, mainly because I was too lazy to walk to the other end of the field and back. All right, so at the end of the game, right, they still go onto the field. Typically you can run onto the field, get a picture of the coaches shaking hands or the quarterback shaking hands and anything else that's kind of happening on the field at the end of the game. This time, right, with COVID, we can't go down there, so it's just a mess of like all the people running onto the field. So I'll try to follow the coaches and get a shot if it's clean, to get a shot of them shaking hands or fist bumping, whatever they're doing. I'll go back to the photo workroom, do essentially the same thing I did at halftime, just editing my images, looking for those key players, making sure I have images of them up. And once I'm done, I'll head home. All right, time to head back to the car. Got all my after the game editing done. And that was a weird game. There was 1 touchdown, but it was 18-12, I believe. So really weird game, but got some good shots, so heading back to the car, gonna drive home. I hope that gave you a good look of what it's like shooting an NFL game during COVID. And it's honestly not crazy different, except that you're just shooting in the stands a little bit further back, because you can still move around the field, which is kind of nice. It's actually a little bit nice being able to edit from the stands and shoot from the stands. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit different. Definitely you can't get the same types of images, but you can still get a lot of great stuff, and it's still a fun time to go out there and shoot those games. Yeah, so if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear if any other photographers out there shooting, what they're doing different, or any tips that they have for what they find to really be working when they're shooting these games. All right, see you next time.